So when the wife is watching the kid and there's all this chaos, she still needed a place to study in the living room. And so we made her this. Hey, so fun story. My wife was like, "Hey, can you build me a desk? You know, you have those white table legs that we got at one time wow, I guess it's been years. Yeah, a couple years ago, and you're like, hey, we should do something with them. Build me a desk out of it. Can you do that?" And I'm like, sure. Why don't I combine that with the pallet wood that I've been meaning to make into some kind of herringbone table design? And she's like, that's brilliant. So I'm like, great, let's do it. Well, you get to follow along as I attempt to do that. To get started, I cut down a couple of 1x2s that I purchased at Home Depot for a couple bucks. Those are those on the left. So yeah, some of the things were already done because they were parts of other projects. For example, I had already started some of this herringbone pattern here out of pallets that I just dismantled, kind of like those. Alright, so on each side of these planks, I put in 2 pocket holes because these are going to be the sides of the base of the desk. Alright, so in this step I'm going to put glue on each side of the 1x2s, and then after I put glue on the top side, on the other side, I'm going to sandwich them between the two legs. Then I'm going to clamp them together and attach them with some, I believe, 1.25" pocket hole screws. Alright, after that I'm going to do the same thing with the other side. Okay, so here I am attaching the pallet boards, some of which I'd already glued together to a plywood base. Now, you could probably do this without attaching them to a plywood base. You could make all the pallet wood at a 45-degree angle and just put some stretchers across the bottom of your desk if you wanted to do that. I was trying to make use of some wood I had lying around, so I figured, hey, I've got this plywood that's ready to go. I've got these pallet wood pieces that are good to go. Let me just do it. So threw down a lot of glue, put the pallet wood on top, attached it with some glue, and then just held it in place and gave it a little extra security with a couple of brad nails. Hey guys, complete side note. The first person who can successfully comment who the F is Jeffrey Scott, as in the answer to who Jeffrey Scott is, I'll send you a custom, one-of-a-kind, made-by-me bottle opener as soon as possible. And I'll show you guys how to build that in the next video. Anyways, here I am attaching the side panels. So I offset them by the width of another 1x2 just to make it easy, and then held them in place and attached them with some glue and some more Craig jig pocket hole screws. As a side note, this process is a lot easier if you have an extra set of hands. As you can see there, I may have missed the screw there a little bit, but you know, you work with what you got. If you can't find an extra set of hands, clamps are always a great way to hold something in place. Here I am clamping the board to my workbench so it doesn't wiggle when I go to try and screw in these last couple of Kreg jig screws. The next thing I did was I measured some stretcher bars to cover the width of the desk. I wanted to add a little bit of extra support just in case we were working on something heavy on the desk, or, you know, God forbid my toddler decided to climb up onto the desk. Wanted to make sure it had some support. I can't tell you exactly how long these were because I don't remember. But the important thing is you should measure it before you make the cut. You know, typical woodworking practices, right? Measure twice, then measure again, and then cut, and then realize you have to redo the whole thing. Just kidding. Measure twice, cut once. I also wanted to add a little bit of extra support to the corners of this desk. So what I did was I cut a couple of pieces of wood at 45-degree angles just so I could kind of shove them into the corners, attach them with some glue and screws, and just kind of shore up those corner pieces to make sure they stayed in there nice and tight. Used a straight edge and some clamps to help my saw guide go straight. Then I flipped it over and sanded down the top of this desk. The next thing I did was make sure to have a nice border around this desk. So I cut these 1x1 pieces of pine at 45-degree angles, glued those to the board, clamped them, let those dry. The next thing I did was to go about staining, and I used a Minuac stain. Just happened to be something I had in my garage, and so it's kind of a dark walnut color. I mixed in a little bit of gray just because my wife really kind of likes the weathered look, so that's what I did here. Pretty sure Shanty the Chic mentioned this triple thick sealer. I have to say I'm very impressed by this Varathane polyurethane triple thick sealer. It's amazing. Next step, sand the base down again. Make sure you didn't miss anything. Always sand really good before you paint, otherwise you run the risk of your paint falling off, which would be really sad because what a waste of paint. Pro tip, watch where you leave your tools. Some people will pick them up and walk off with them. Soft pads, bottom. Just in case you decide to put it on the tile later. Alright, so here's the kind of last bits. Put the top on the base, center it, which is for some reason always more difficult than it needs to be. I spent way too much time doing that, but once you get it centered, then you're going to attach some screws from the bottom through those two stretchers, and that's going to hold the board to the base. If you enjoyed this video as much as my son enjoys tools and taking mine, please like this video and subscribe to my channel to see some more. So what do you think of your desk?
I am really happy. Can't wait to use it.
Hey buddy, what do you think of Mama's new desk? He really doesn't care. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video. Just a quick glimpse of what you can do with a few pallets, some scrap plywood, and some legs that came off of an old table that no one was using anymore. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you find it helpful. If you have any questions, hit the comment section below, and I'll try and answer as soon as I can. Peace.